The volatility in the stock market is giving us five setups that have unthinkable upside for 2026, and they just popped up as extreme buys right now on my watch list. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through how I'm going to capitalize in my $1.2 million account. I'm going to lay out a very quick thesis of where the S&P 500 is at right now, because if the S&P does not take the next leg higher, these individual stocks are not going to take the next leg higher either. And then we'll go into the single stocks of which ones I think have extreme upside in 2026, how to capitalize by buying shares, how to capitalize by selling puts, how to capitalize by buying call options. I'm going to lay out strikes, expiration dates, the whole bit right here, and you're going to feel very confident potentially investing in these stocks for 2026 and beyond. So taking a look at this chart right here, you know that we talk about all the time on this channel, the number one thing that moves the price of a stock in the long term is what the profits of the companies are actually doing. The darker line here is the S&P 500 profit line, the earnings per share line. The lighter line is the S&P 500 index itself. So you noticed a few months ago how the S&P was a little bit overvalued. The index ran up more than what the actual profit line went up. That denotes that future expected returns probably aren't going to be that good. But now that we have the Iran thing and volatility and oil and whatever volatility coming out of this whole geopolitical situation, the market's selling off because it's getting nervous. And it just takes any random catalyst to bring the market down to earth because valuations were a little bit high and now we're closer to the earnings per share growth line. So in a perfect world, the index is going to perfectly track where the profit line goes. But we have short-term fear, short-term emotion, short-term greed that pushes the stock market above or below the earnings per share growth line. So right here, the market was a little bit expensive. We got the negative catalyst. It's coming back down to earth. The more that the market falls, the more that individual stocks are probably going to fall too, most of them at least. And when they fall, these are good companies that are just getting beat up in the short term because of short-term fear, short-term emotion, and that is a time to capitalize on those. So when we look at this chart right here, this tells me that the S&P 500, it is not extremely cheap right now, but it is getting closer to intrinsic value, roughly 5% overvalued, we'll just say right now. But back here, it was maybe 10 to 15% overvalued. So now that we're close to intrinsic value, it kind of checks the box for these individual stocks to take the next leg higher because they're not going to take the next leg higher unless the S&P goes up with it and the Nasdaq too. One more chart here and then we'll talk about the individual stocks. This right here shows you the price earnings ratio level of the S&P 500. You can see that right now we just got an update and the red line is overlapping on the 20x line right here, which shows you that the price earnings ratio level for the S&P 500 is close to 20 right now. You saw a few months ago we were on our way to 25, which is very, very high, meaning the future expected returns for the stock market are not going to be good. And I know I'm harping on what the S&P and Nasdaq do, but they set the tide for everything. If the S&P falls and the Nasdaq falls, almost nothing is going to go up. You might be super bullish on stock XYZ, but if this stuff falls, if this stuff is a bubble, your stock XYZ is not going to go up when everything else is going down. You saw what happened in 2000. Price earnings ratio level was around 25. Obviously, future expected returns were pretty bad. We're up here around 25. Now we're at 20. The future returns are now better because we have very strong earnings per share growth and we now have a reasonable valuation level given interest rates, given earnings per share growth, revenue growth, the whole macro sentiment. We are looking much better right now and much safer. So let's go into stock number one, and that's going to be the big bad NVIDIA. And I know that we recently talked about NVIDIA, but there's some critical things that just changed, and I think it's going to help you out a lot to understand my new thesis on NVIDIA. So here's the deal. Revenue growth is very, very strong, 65% year over year revenue growth. Earnings per share is 64%. You get all that for a 35 trailing price earnings ratio level with a company that has a moat, they have pricing power, they have a durable competitive advantage, kind of like checking all the boxes that Warren Buffett would want to check. You have that with NVIDIA right now. And we are in a super cycle of AI demand, AI compute, AI inference going for many years into the future. The reason why the stock hasn't really been doing much the last year-ish is because the S&P 500 also hasn't really been doing that much. So meanwhile, when you have earnings per share growing, going up and to the right, and the stock actually going down in the last year-ish, we'll just say, it's setting up for a major leg higher. Kind of like what happened right here. The stock consolidated for a little bit of time, had a little bit of a dip, and then bam. You can see on the left the stock went from 97 all the way up over $200 per share. So the stock doubled. Is the stock going to double from this level right here? It is very, very possible because the profits are growing very, very fast and the price earnings ratio level is very, very fair. I think that demand for NVIDIA is going to be very strong going into the future. I don't think the hyperscalers are going to wipe them out. I don't think that AMD is going to wipe them out or Broadcom or Marvell, whoever. NVIDIA has a very durable moat right now, and if you want to capitalize on it, potentially consider buying shares, potentially consider selling portfolio secured puts, and example trades of what I would do. Right now it's 172 per share, which is crazy. I think this is a $250 stock, but short term to market's not always rational. But I would go sell a 2-year put right now, picking roughly a 140 strike. You're going to get paid money to buy Nvidia shares 2 years from right now for 140 bucks per share, and you're going to pick up that premium no matter what. Think about that. You're going to get paid to buy the company cheaper in the future when the profits are going to be going up and to the right even more. It's very unlikely you're going to be at 140 bucks a share in the future. So then when you take that cash flow, which gets credited to your account immediately when you sell the put, you take the cash flow, you go buy more shares, you take the cash flow, you go buy some calls, and you could also take the cash flow, build your base portfolio in the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq too. You guys know I'm heavy in the S&P and Nasdaq. It's very hard to beat that stuff in the long term. And what I do with options is kind of just one layer on the top, a little tool on top of it to get a little bit more juice, a little bit more ROI. And that's how I've been beating the market for the long term with this very simple strategy. Simply buying great companies at great prices, doing options only when it makes sense, always doing it in a way where if we get a 50% stock market crash, my ratios are always going to be in check so that when the market goes down, I'm not only going to be able to survive it, but capitalize it too. And again, if we just go flip back to my account, the all-time high for my account was somewhere around $1,285,000. So we'll just say I'm down roughly $110,000 from the high. Many people are going to be like, oh my God, Brandon, you're down $100,000. But think about it. The market was a little bit expensive. The market's being volatile right now, and it's simply okay. So I'm down basically a very similar percent as what the Nasdaq is down in the same time frame. So we go from all-time high on the Nasdaq to what it's at right now. The Nasdaq's down roughly 8% from all-time highs. We're not down 30% or 40%. My account is literally down the same percent as what the Nasdaq is down. But when the market goes up, I'm making more money on the upside. So it's the best of both worlds how I allocate my account. So Nvidia, like I said, it's a very bullish setup, but you have to be patient with this one. I don't do any short duration option contracts with it. It's just too hard to guess and try to figure out what the stock is going to do in the short term, as you can see right here. So the longer it goes sideways for, the longer EPS grows for, the longer the revenue grows for like this, guys, it's crazy for this stock to sit sideways and do nothing. It is eventually going to follow the profits, the earnings per share up and to the right. Now, stock number 2 is going to be Meta. And I know that we talked about Meta on this channel before, but Meta is very, very, very interesting right now. We have to talk about this because things are changing very, very rapidly with this whole Iran situation. Meta is growing revenue at 22% a year, earnings per share at 24% a year, and the price earnings ratio level is literally 20. 20 is extremely cheap for a company like Meta. Earnings per share is clearly going up and to the right. The stock has been basically consolidating in a very, volatile way, doing nothing. When you have sideways action in a stock and EPS is going up and to the right, that's naturally going to make the valuation come down because the stock's not going up, but the profits are going up. So the price earnings ratio level is going to come down, which means you're getting more bang for your buck. So when this is happening, you want to start allocating to stuff like this. Meta gets 98% of the revenue from ads. They have Facebook, Instagram, Threads, WhatsApp. They dominate the ad space. And at a time right now where they are spending so much money of their top line revenue, this $200 billion, they're spending a lot of this on capital expenditures to build out their data centers so that they could train AI agents where you basically go on and say, hey, I have product XYZ that I want to go sell. Figure out the best way to sell it, the most efficient way to make me the most amount of money. Meta is basically going to handle all that for you. And I've run ads before on Meta too, and it is very, very complicated right now, but it's actually good that it's complicated because they have a lot of room to then go improve their systems. If they're already optimized and it's the best it could ever be right now, then it's like, okay, what juices are left for them to improve? But there is a lot of room of improvement for Meta to do right now. So I'm very bullish on Meta. The earnings per share is growing very strong. The revenue is growing very strong. And you're getting all of that for a 20 price earnings ratio level. So when the capital expenditures slow down and when they start to monetize the data centers, they charge more for the ads are better, they convert better, they're going to have a tailwind of earnings per share growth that is going to push the stock higher in my opinion. So Meta, I am very bullish on. Now, if we take a look at the third one, which is going to be the big bad TSM. TSM is a very interesting one. The reason being is because they are not located in the United States. They're based in Taiwan. And the fear with TSM is that everyone thinks that China is going to go and invade Taiwan. Is it possible? Yes, of course. Is it unlikely? Yes, of course. This has been an ongoing debacle for, you know, decades, many, many decades. Just look up the history of China and Taiwan. Um, so here's the deal. TSM fabricates roughly 90% of the data center chips, literally 90%. So NVIDIA, AMD, Marvell, Broadcom, they design it. They're like the architects. They send the blueprints to TSM and say, hey, go build this for us. So TSM actually builds the chips. And TSM is also building new factories in Arizona and various other states in the United States to diversify a little bit away from Taiwan. It's obviously not ramped right now, but the longer the time goes on, the less that China becomes a risk because they're more diversified across the whole globe. So when you realize you have 36% revenue growth, 51% earnings per share growth, a 30 for a P/E ratio trailing, meaning 12 months had already happened in the past, and you have such a strong moat, you fabricate 90% of the data center chips, and we just saw what Elon came out and said how they're going to do the terafab thing because they need so many chips that they're like, dude, we have this huge bottleneck with TSM right now. We just need to go build our own chips. And then Samsung's trying to encroach in this space a little bit too. But TSM has this market completely cornered. They are dominating the space. So when you have such strong pricing power, such strong demand, you see your earnings per share go up and to the right, you see your revenue go up and to the right, and then the stock usually goes up and to the right too. So TSM is coming off the highs right here. It was somewhere around 380-ish bucks per share, somewhere around 329 right now. So the play that I would do on TSM right now would be this. Buy shares with a reasonable amount in your portfolio. Of course, the S&P NASDAQ composes just say 70% of my account right now. Individual stocks is roughly 30, then I buy some calls, then I sell some puts, whatever. But TSM, I would buy some shares right now with the intention of holding them for the long term. Then I would go sell portfolio secured puts secured by that base portfolio I just talked about, the S&P NASDAQ individual stocks. I would go out and sell somewhere around a 250 strike price put 2 years out. You're going to pick up the cash flow. You're going to be able to buy those shares for 250 bucks a share 2 years from now when EPS is likely to be higher, meaning the stock is likely to be higher, and it's likely that that sold put contract will expire out of the money. You have no cash drag with a cash secured put. You have this secured by your base portfolio, so there's no opportunity cost, there's no cash drag, you're not on margin, you're not paying margin interest. You're just simply keeping your ratios in check and selling puts when it makes sense to do it. So that's what I would do on TSM. Now, if we go back to Meta, I didn't talk about the trade. Meta, I would basically just go sell a $500 strike price sold put, roughly 2 years out, take the cash flow, buy some shares, take the cash flow and buy some calls. Now, for calls, what we talked about so far on NVIDIA, Meta, and TSM, I like to buy calls roughly 1 to 2 years out because it gives time for the profits to grow and it gives time for my thesis to actually play out. I mean, you see, let's just go to NVIDIA. You see that NVIDIA, like maybe we're super bullish in this time frame, but if you would have bought a 6-month call, you'd have gotten smoked right here. The stock didn't really do anything. We had a bad catalyst with Iran. Valuations are resetting a little bit with the S&P and NASDAQ. You wouldn't have made any money just yet. But if you would have did a 2-year call option right here and you pay a little bit more, yeah, you pay a little bit more, but your chances of making money is astronomically higher. So 6 months went by right here, just say, but you still have, 18 months left in that contract to try to make money. So longer duration is better. Now, when I pick strike prices for my 2-year leaps, I like to go just barely out of the money because I don't want to pay the in the money premium, which is not really that much, but I just want to buy something that is worthless because you get a little bit better price. So I would buy like a 180 call on NVIDIA 2 years out. I would probably buy a $600 call on Meta 2 years out. And I'd probably buy somewhere around like a 340 or 350 call on TSM a few years out too. And again, when you understand that the NASDAQ is down from all-time highs roughly 8%, this should not worry you. This is very typical, this is very common, and this happens all the time in the stock market. These are normal corrections that are healthy. Whether you think we're going to World War III or not, nobody knows. I don't think we are. This is likely to be a nothing burger when we look back on our portfolios in a few years from now and say, okay, I'm happy that I bought the dip. I'm happy I capitalized on these good companies at good prices, and then you're going to be set up very well to capitalize in the future. Now, the last two tickers are going to be the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, VOO for S&P, triple Q for the NASDAQ. 95% of people are not going to beat that in the long term, so I simply allocate to that, and now that the market's a little bit cheaper, I am more bullish on that stuff. But if you want to learn more about my option system, watch this playlist right here. It's going to help you out a lot, going through various option strategies and step-by-step how I do my strategy and beat the market. I'll see you guys there.